Sports Talent Show, where we talk all things talents in Connecticut. And on tonight's show, I'm pleased to have the senior quarterback for Ridgefield, Justin Keller. Justin, great to be able to have you on the podcast.
Really appreciate it. I'm excited to be here.
Justin, obviously, before we start talking about your time at Richfield and such, with you being a first-time guest, I love hearing stories about how particular sport, or in your case, sports, kind of found you. But before I get to that, being as athletic as you are, was that something that kind of like was sports just an attraction early on?
Yeah, I mean, I've got 3 siblings, and they're all much older than me, so, getting into sports early was huge for me, so I'm lucky enough to have the family around me that I do, and they've supported me all the way through, so getting into it early, I mean, it didn't really matter the sport, just getting involved, even before I got into elementary school, really, that just kinda set me on that pathway, and then once I was old enough to be into, like, tackle football and all the travel basketball stuff, and then with baseball as well, it just kind of was an easy transition, so I think the situation that I was put into really early as a kid really kind of helped grow that love for sports. So definitely, it was something that happened early on.
Do you think with you being able to play multiple sports like that kind of allowed you to not have that burnout, which I see so many young athletes have when they play one particular sport? Because I think we're getting to a point now where the old, I guess, adage of playing one sport because you got to play one because of whatever. We're kind of, I feel like, moving away from that because the more athletes I've been able to talk to since I started doing this podcast back in 2020 when COVID really was rampant, is that how athletic I'm seeing these young men and women as far as playing 2, 3 sports throughout the academic year.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I think it's been a huge piece to me, and obviously, like you said, it really does. It helps between each sport. So it doesn't even have to be specific things. I think just as an athlete in general, going between programs, between coaches throughout 3 seasons of the year, I take different things from each one and bring it into each of my games. So especially in football, being more in that leadership role, I think that being in the basketball and baseball seasons, it teaches me so much just about being an athlete and being a leader just because you're in different positions on each team. So I think that from a young age, really, I mean, you develop so many different factors of being an athlete just by playing multiple sports. So that's the start of it. And I mean, that allows me to, as a quarterback, kind of be a little bit more versatile. And then apart from that, like I said, with the leadership stuff, I mean, you get to see so many different kids that you're teammates with and see so many different leaders over the years that you're in high school and even before. And you kind of just get to model what you do after many different people. So I think that, I mean, the people that play one sport all the way, I mean, I have a ton of respect for those people because they've got that level of grind and they're able to kind of stick with that. And like you said, if they're able to make it through, that's really cool for them. But for me, it was something that I knew I was going to be able to do and wanted to do for a long, long time because I love each sport just as much as the next, and it was definitely I knew the effects that it had on me across each sport was huge. So
As you started to progress, even now, I mean, you and I were going back and forth as far as football seems like it's going to be what you're going to play in college. Was it something where it was always football, and then not to say the other sports weren't important, but what I mean is, I guess, uh, you know, was football kind of always like your best sport, or was it basketball, then baseball? Like, was it always interchangeable, or was it always just one sport, meaning football?
I think that I was definitely always probably the best at football across the 3. I think that when I was younger, obviously, like, basketball and baseball, I mean, obviously, they were very, very popular, but the skill level didn't really, stand out as much as I would say as in football, and I think a lot of that comes from, again, like, my family's background 'cause, my dad did play football in college, and then I had another brother play football in college at the D3 level, and then my other brother played in high school as a quarterback and then went on to play rugby in college, so we do have football in our family and it's been there for a while. So I think that football already kind of started out early as the number one.
Mhm.
So that was definitely an easier transition, whereas no one in my family ever really played basketball. So that one was kind of a lot harder to jump into. But I mean, as an athlete, I was able to learn so much and take that into each of my games. So definitely, I think football started out as the number one. And I mean, even to this day, it's probably the one that I'm the best at. But I really do. I love each sport, and I think that I've been able to grow so much across both of the other two
Mhm.
from playing each one.
I know I have to ask, where did your dad and your brother play for football?
Yeah, so my dad played out in California. They're all from there. That's where they all grew up. So he played at Cal Poly for a couple years, and then my oldest brother played at Curry College up in Milton, Mass.
Very nice. So I wonder, and I don't know if your dad is he a USC fan, UCLA fan, or no?
No, so that's actually an interesting story. So his whole family is from Oklahoma. So he actually grew up in California because they had moved there, but his whole family is Oklahoma. So we're all actually Oklahoma fans, and I know that's like I wear the Oklahoma shirt around town, and some people are like, "Oh, okay, well they get a couple Heisman Trophy winners, and now we see an Oklahoma shirt." But yeah, we are actually Oklahoma football fans. So
So how do you feel that they're moving to the SEC in 2024?
I mean, the competition is going to be crazy. So
No
I don't really
different.
know. I mean, obviously with Coach Venables now, people are
Mhm.
excited, and I know that. I mean, obviously he used to be there, and when he was there, that's when Oklahoma used to be good at defense. So we're hoping that that'll come back because that's been kind of their Achilles heel the past couple of years. But definitely, it'll be cool to see if they're really what we think they are in that conference. And I mean, getting to play big games every single week is a lot different than I mean, sometimes they'll play Kansas State and Kansas, and it's not really like you're even playing Power Five team anymore. So it'll be fun to watch.
Although I will say Kansas State kind of does give them a run for their money every once
Kansas
in a
State,
while. It's not much,
Kansas
but
State, for some reason, had our number the past like 3 years. Forget his name. The quarterback there, he's a complete athlete. He just kind
mm.
of took care of Oklahoma the past couple of years. But yeah.
Now I do have to ask about Venables because I feel like it kind of relates to just I think where we are in society with sports right now with NIL and all that. He made a comment. I don't know if you saw it on Twitter as far as he wants
Hmm.
players that are committed and not
Yeah.
just commit. And I think what he meant, which it's weird because he got so much kind of I don't know if hate's the right word, but people didn't understand him. So I
Hmm.
guess the question that I'll ask you, and I know it's kind of out there, and I apologize, but just because we're talking about this,
Yeah.
when he says commit and committed, commit because we know with social media, oh, I'm going here. And then in a couple of
Hmm.
weeks or a month, oh, I'm decommitting. He wanted
Yeah.
guys who are committed, who are with an ED, who are buying into
Hmm.
the program and believe in it, like you have for Ridgefield for 4 years, now going
Yeah.
into fourth year. What do
Yeah.
you say about Venables, comments?
I think, I mean, what he said is pretty awesome because a lot of people are a little bit afraid to say it because of this age of Twitter and everything like that. And I mean, Twitter has become really important for the recruiting process, as everyone is seeing. But that idea, just like you're saying, about the more attention based commit and then actually being committed to your program. And I think that's been evident across all levels of college football now, and even in high school as well with the prep schools. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that idea that coaches are just looking for guys that really want to play at a certain school or really want to play for this program is
Mm-hmm.
going to make a big difference. And I think at the high school level, the biggest thing we're seeing is that, especially in a conference like the FCAC, I mean, there's turnover every year, but you always kind of have the programs that will be more successful than others. And I think that apart from the talent level, because everyone's always going to have talent, but the teams at this level that succeed every year are the ones that have the best culture. So I mean, you saw it last year. We had a more sporadic season, and there were those points where we were 4-1 and the number 3 team in the state, and it's like you lose a big game here and there, whatever, and how you respond to that, it kind of goes back to what we're saying here. So the guys that are actually really committed and have that pride for their sport and for their school and for their program,
Mm-hmm.
kind of leads the way to a team that is able to come back from stuff like that and have good leadership, have a good culture, and kind of be able to fight through adversity as a team. Whereas I think the teams that have more of just like the talent and the guys who are more, I would say, attention based, and that might not be the right term, but something along those lines. That's where you kind of see the guys that will, like you said, they'll commit to a school, it'll be great, and then someone will come knocking on their door a couple weeks later, and then they're gone. And that coach that had just recruited them for so long, and I mean, you see it all the time. It's really unfortunate, and it's all really a game. That's what. So I mean, I'm lucky enough to have Coach Callahan as my head coach, who's been around for a while now. So he knows the process very well. He knows a lot of people, and his biggest advice to me has been just be patient with it because with this, just like you're saying, everything is moving parts, and you really can't predict what's going to happen. So those guys that are really truly committed will end up being the guys that will succeed. So it's definitely good that he put that out there.
As one college basketball coach told me, he's almost in some ways, let's say he has a roster of 8 to 9 players, let's just say. He goes into that offseason now with everything with NIL and whatnot. He said he's going in thinking he's going to lose three to transfer because they're not, they don't agree with their playing time. And he felt like when he told me this that he was going to lose probably another 3 to 4 because he felt like with NIL, they were going to get money somewhere else. It's
Yeah.
just one of those things that coaches have to deal with. And now we're seeing in high school potentially with, I saw that now you guys can have an opportunity
Yeah.
to be able to, as long as it, and I know there's things of which you can't do this, you can't do that, but
Mhm.
now you guys have an opportunity to be able to make some money as well.
Yeah, I think NIL has overall, I mean, it's been something that's been very, especially at the highest levels, obviously. You see the guys, those Power 5 guys, it's been really, really helpful for them, and I think that's the right thing to do. But I think it's just definitely now that it's down to the high school level, it's getting very, very broad, and, I mean, it's a little bit cool. It's cool to see some of these guys that are able to utilize that, and, I think it's definitely creating a newer game across high school and college, especially with the recruiting process, but it's definitely making it interesting for sure.
Now, your freshman year, you missed because of COVID. So is that right?
Um, so freshman year was the last year before COVID for me. So that was
Oh,
the
okay.
2019 season.
Okay.
And then my sophomore year was the season that was missed because of COVID. Yeah.
Okay. So, and I'm glad that you mentioned that. So thank you for correcting me. So, in missing your sophomore year, that's kind of not to say that it's crucial, but it's very, very important, especially when you're someone now. Did you play varsity? When did you start playing varsity?
Yeah, so I was third string on varsity as a freshman. So I got to experience that team, and we had a great team that year, a great senior class, and we had a really good season, made the playoffs, and then just came up short against Southington in the quarterfinals. So I got to experience that all year with the varsity team, and then sophomore year I was going to be the starter. Um, and then obviously we had the season get canceled. But I think as a quarterback, that 7-on-7 league that we did that year, which
Hmm.
obviously, I mean, it sucks that we had to miss a year, especially when everybody else got to play mostly. So that was really, really tough. But that 7-on-7 league for me, just being a 15-year-old getting into varsity football for the first time as a sophomore,
Hmm.
not having to deal with pass rush and actually getting hit for the first time at a varsity level, which I mean, going from, I mean, I played both freshman and JV freshman year, but you can't talk about that jump. So being 15 years old and having to make that jump would have been very, very hard. And I mean, I think I would have probably been able to deal with it to an extent, and we would have been able to have success. But I think that just kind of getting to focus on getting to that level of throwing and seeing defenses moving faster, all that kind of stuff was
Hmm.
very, very beneficial for me. And I think obviously 7-on-7 film isn't real football film, but it really was helpful for me as a quarterback with my growth. So that was an interesting experience. Probably, obviously, I would have loved to have been able to play that year and then truly have played 3 years as the starter. But I think being able to still have that starter role with the guys around me and obviously 2 grades older than me, but still be able to play some football in some form, be able to throw and see defenses at that level. It was a good transition period, I would say. So
As one coach in Connecticut said when 7-on-7 was going to be allowed, like that's not real football, or maybe it was a
yeah.
player. I forgot who it was. And
Hmm.
my opinion doesn't matter, so I don't agree or disagree. But I will say there was I do believe for the only opinion that matters, I think, is
Hmm.
that I think that of mine that matters. That 7-on-7 can be helpful in ways if you
Hmm.
capitalize on that. And it
Yeah.
sounds like for you, Justin, that being able to, like you said, not get hit and just kind of as an athlete, you need reps. You had the athletic
Hmm.
ability, but the football raw talent needed kind of that molding. And it sounds like you can correct me if I'm wrong here, that you needed to see how offenses were or how an offense was able to be run, being able to
Yeah.
go through the footwork, the throwing mechanics, just the repetitions. It sounded
Hmm.
like you needed that.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that that would have been something that I would have had to work through no matter what, whether we were playing real football or 7-on-7. And I think that just what we're talking about right there, if we were in a real football season, not only would I have had to expand my game and grow as a quarterback, I would have also had to deal with getting hit every week and dealing with pass rush and learning that side of the game. So I think that you take that out completely, and just like you said, I mean, it was huge for my growth because I got to see everything that I would be seeing in a real football season just slowed down a notch, and obviously without the contact, so there was a little bit less of whether I was ready or not physically. So it was definitely very, very beneficial for me, and my coaches acknowledged that the entire time. So I think we made the most of it, which was huge.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously for those seniors and the juniors as well, they were trying to get recruited. It was probably the worst case scenario for them. So I will always feel bad for them for the rest of my life. I mean, that's just something you can't make up. But for me personally, in a little bit more of a selfish way, it was probably one of the better things that could have happened in terms of my development as a quarterback going forward with the varsity team.
Now, looking at what happened last year, Justin, as far as the team aspect, you lose to Greenwich, but then you win four straight. And then
Yeah.
you go into a little bit of a slump as far as the team aspect. Then you lose 4, but then you finish strong at the season with a win. Um,
Mhm.
just looking at, as I've seen many high school games throughout the years broadcasting for the radio and the TV side of it, seeing the ebbs and flows of a season, I've always believed that so much the record is not important. It's more so, what do you have coming back the following season? And can that
100%.
season reflect in a positive way? And it sounds like you have a good amount. Obviously, you're coming back, which is huge. I mean,
Mhm.
getting your quarterback back. I mean, I'm sure Callahan must be thrilled to have his
Yeah,
quarterback back. But
100%.
what I'm trying to get at, to send it home here, is that if you have a lot of players coming back with the record aside, and I know 5-5 is not great, but you learn from that. I mean, I'm just looking at some of these games. You lost 17-14 to St. Joe's. St. Joe's was a playoff team. Wilton 14-7. They competed till the end. I mean, Staples and Trumbull was not a blowout by any means, in my opinion. So I would think these young guys with yourself are going to take that next step, which I'm sure you've been doing in the offseason.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think you really hit on the head there. I think that we had the start that we did, and we actually, so a lot of people don't know this. We had a week 1 bye last year because we were gonna play Stanford week 1, but our field wasn't ready because we were repairing it. So we had to move that game to the middle of the season. So we actually had a week 1 bye. So not only did we come out against a great team in Greenwich, we were coming out after not playing a real football game in 2 years. So and then like I was just talking about a couple minutes ago, most of us were guys who the last time we played was freshman football. So it's like that jump was huge. And I think you saw the first half, they got up on us big in the first half. And it's like, okay, we clearly were not ready. But I think the biggest thing that showed me about our team last season was that second half against them because we actually almost came back. So we ended up scoring 5 touchdowns between the end of the third and then throughout the fourth. And we were 1 possession away. We had them on a fourth down. They ended up getting that first down at the end of the game. But I think that, and Coach Callahan said it at halftime. He said, listen, guys, like, this where we go from here the rest of the game is going to show you a lot about who we are as a team because that adversity that we were able to battle with in that week 1, I mean, it really carried us throughout that first half of the season for sure. And I mean, we definitely came out of there with a lot of confidence. We knew that we could compete and we knew that we could have a lot of success on both sides against teams like that. And I think that you go through the rest of that first half of the season with the success that we had because then you go week 2 or week 3 for the rest of the state, and I mean, Xavier was a top 10 team in the state at the time, and we were up 28-0 in the fourth quarter against them. So we go right from there, and then you rattle off a couple wins, and then it's the big game against St. Joe's. And that was truly the turning point for us because, again, another game, we kind of started off slow in that game, but I mean, they came out really well, and it was tight at halftime. And then we were winning that game with 4 minutes left. So we were up 14-10, and then they drove down and scored a touchdown. So it's 17-14, and then we're driving down with about 30 seconds left, and we get 3rd and 10, and then we end up getting a just misunderstanding with the receiver, and then we kind of get out, and then unfortunate way to end that game with an interception. But I mean, you go from there, and we win that game, and you don't really know what's going to happen after that. But unfortunately, we were not able to come back from that type of adversity, and you see that you go for the rest of the season, and I mean, that's a gauntlet with that schedule with those teams last year. And we love that. Just like you mentioned at the beginning, the FCAC always has that talent. And um, the Wilton game, obviously the biggest rivalry game. I mean, it's incredibly unfortunate you can't finish that one out. But then you keep going and you get Trumbull and Staples, 2 games that Trumbull we were tied at halftime, and Staples we were winning 10-0 at halftime. So there was a lot of I think just the inconsistency that we didn't realize that we had until that point. And it was unfortunate to go through that. But the biggest thing I've been telling to my seniors as well that are with me this year is that I mean, it was really, really hard to have to go through that, but I think we learned more than we would have learned if we had just went one direction the entire time because we see where we can be. We see that success that we had, and we see how well our team was working together throughout that first half up until the St. Joe's game and in the St. Joe's game. And then you see where it goes from there if we take it the wrong direction. And if guys kind of disconnect, and if we now don't have the same culture that we did at the beginning of the season, and it's like, okay, so we know where we can be, we know where we're working towards being, and we know the different things that we have to avoid. So I think that the biggest thing I would say is composure. So that is a very umbrella term, but I think that composure and consistency is going to be the reason why we're able to now go back to that top level and even continue with that success. So we're definitely very, very excited because I know the coaching staff was able to reflect and kind of develop a really great plan going forward with this offseason and now into the season. And I know that for me personally, and then the rest of my seniors, we've definitely been very confident and excited to kind of continue with what we know we can do and really develop a culture that's going to be able to go through another tough schedule this year. But we're definitely very confident in what we have, and we're excited to see it play out.
You know, Justin, it's one of those things where, like I said, it's if you got a lot of players coming back, which again, and you made it, you painted the picture very well. That it seems like you guys are hungry and motivated to be better than that 5-5, and
Mm-hmm.
especially in the FCAC, as you know, I mean, you're also in Double L. Double L is very competitive.
Yeah.
Even with everything that they've done with the extra couple teams now having six instead of four, I mean, you still got to go up against, I mean, the Southingtons, the Trumbolls, as we mentioned, so on and so forth. Fairfield Prep, who, I mean, at one point, I think, didn't they beat the number one team when nobody had them at the time, even ranked number
Yeah, they
10,
early
right?
in the season, I think they were the number one for
Yeah.
a while.
Because I remember the players saying that, kind of going after game time
Yeah.
because they didn't have them. I thought that was funny. Kind of,
Hmm.
it's always a good banter to have that. Always good. I
Yeah.
found it funny. That's just me.
100%. Yeah.
Um,
100%.
Justin, before I let you go really quick, as far as yourself, you got a lot of interest. I mean, you're going to be playing quarterback at the next level. Anything you can share as far as how that is going through that process, which I'm sure is very stressful?
Yeah, no, it's definitely, I mean, everybody tell you the same thing for the most part. It's long and stressful for sure. And I mean, it's been
Mm,
now going on for a pretty long time. So it started obviously back in last fall, really. And even last summer was with the camps and all that. So after last junior season, you're getting your film out, all that kind of stuff. And it's truly been, it's been hectic since then because once coaches can start talking to you, it really, I call it a game and it really is. So, um, just kind of going through that and hearing so many different things, and then the camps again this summer when the eyes are really on you. It's been fun for, at least really. So I've had a lot of fun going through it, and we're still going through it for sure. And I think after camps this summer, we have a much better view on kind of where I am and the
mm.
different coaches that are we're still having a really good relationship with. So it's definitely long and pretty gruesome, but we know that in the end, no matter where I end up, it's going to be where I'm meant to be, and we're gonna figure that out hopefully sometime soon. We're definitely focused on the senior season, and we know that that's all I can control right now. So we're gonna do what I can control, and we're gonna kind of go forward with our team because we know that we have a pretty good chance to be very good this year. So we know that if everything pulls through like we know it can, that we're gonna end up where I'm meant to be. So we're in a solid spot right now, and we're excited to see how it plays out.
Now, I caught you saying "we" quite a bit. I think I find that very mature because you're not saying I." You're saying "we." So I'm assuming
Mm-hmm.
you're counting your family, obviously your teammates, Coach Callahan. Am I wrong there?
No, yeah, you're completely right. I mean, I think that it's as much as it is a very hard process for me, it's even harder for everybody else because I mean, my parents obviously they're the ones having to take me around and having to support me, and at the end of the day, they're the ones having to jump on board with the decision that we end up making. So, and their opinion is completely equally as important as mine in this whole process. And I think that the coaching staff that we have, and I'm very lucky to have them because of their experience. Because not even just Coach Callahan, we've got multiple guys that have had different experience over the years, whether it be coaching in college actually, or just being around the process for a longer time. I mean,
Mhm.
we've got a really good crew around me that have really helped the entire time, and they've just been able to keep me level and knowing that that's the same thing I said that no matter what happens in the end, I'm going to control what I can control, and I'm going to end up where I'm meant to be. So they've all been super helpful in this, and they've all been kind of the reason why I've been able to do all of this. And it even goes back to the multiple sports thing. I mean, having coaches that are supportive across multiple sports and understanding that your time is being split up. I mean, that's the only reason why I've been able to do it the entire time because they've been supportive and have been kind of pushing me forward and pushing me past what I thought I could do, really. And so it's really even apart, even outside of that group that I just mentioned with my parents and Coach Callahan, it's as much my basketball coach, my baseball coach, all those teammates. It's really everybody that has been able to support me through the recruiting process, even though it's just for football. So it's definitely a big group. So that's why I do say we, because I know that at the end of the day, it's not just me who was able to do this. So I'm really appreciative for those guys, and I know that it's going to end up wherever it ends up. It's going to be good for all of us. So.
You got to tell Callahan or Coach Callahan. I got to call him Coach. Can't call him Callahan. I don't know him yet. You got to tell Coach Callahan to give Saban a call and to give Day a call at Alabama and Ohio State. They're losing their quarterbacks after this year, so
Yeah,
an opening maybe.
there you go. There you go.
But Justin, I appreciate you coming on. This was a lot of fun. Hopefully, I could have you back on sometime during either the middle of the season or at the end of the season to kind of catch up with you and see how things are going. But I expect a pretty. I would not be shocked, and I told you this before. I'll tell you now. I would not be shocked if Richfield is in the playoffs. I think you guys will be there, and hopefully, I can see you guys there. And who knows if you guys are in the championship? I would love to call that game.
100%. We're very excited. I really appreciate you having me.
No problem. Anytime. Now, wrap things up here on the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe. Remember, CT stands for Connecticut Talent. I'm our journey. Find them all. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and be well.